Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Riverdale. A lot of interesting things came about in this episode. One is the fact that we have Archie stressing out about knowing what they know now. Jason's body's been found, and he can't sleep. He even talks to his teacher about it, and she's like, "No, we can't tell anyone because it will mean really basically it's like I'll go to jail, you'll get kicked out of school, it's like we'll be in a lot of serious trouble, so we can't tell anyone." It's like the fact of the matter, but Archie's like, "We weren't there, so we'd be able to kind of pinpoint the time of death and everything," and she's like, "Well, that doesn't matter, they're doing an autopsy on Jason's body, they'll figure it out anyway." And more so to it, just kind of since I'm already bringing up the autopsy, man, Betty's mom is she even says it herself, she's like, "My mom's crazy," because her mom is I don't know what it is. It seems like her mom's a reporter or something, and it seems like she paid the ME access to the morgue and looking at Jason's body. When she's looking at him, seeing him dead and everything, she's smiling and everything. Even her husband is like, "Yo, calm down. He hasn't even been dead that long," and she's just because she has such disdain for that family. For what reason? Obviously there's the whole Polly situation, but it seems like it runs even deeper than that, because the fact is, she's to the point that she's it almost seems like she doesn't want Betty to have any friends, because it's outside of Archie and even Veronica and Kevin that she even really have many friends, and it's she wants her to separate. Yes, it's understandable why she's pissed at Archie and Veronica, much like Betty is, because she's like, "Oh, I try to warn you, my little darling, the fact is that it would betray you and everything, but Betty doesn't want to listen." It's just I'm very curious. It's obviously got to be something running deeper than that, because that question did pop up in this episode too. It's what did go down between Polly and Jason, the reason things ended up the way they did, because apparently Cheryl doesn't even know herself, and neither does Betty, because basically, obviously, that situation where, basically she's pissed at Archie and she's pissed at Veronica. She tried to pretend like everything was okay, give them a chance. In Veronica's case, it was more so it's she knows that Veronica is just going to eventually go back to the way to be the person that she says she doesn't want to be anymore. That basically she'll turn back into Cheryl. She'll find someone else to kind of take, quote unquote, take pity on and try to befriend. And it's oh, well, obviously, nod to each other every once in a while. We come across each other, but it's other than that, we're not friends. Because she accepted Veronica's apology, but it's kind of I accept it with, an asterisk beside it. She even blew up at Veronica, because Veronica's she brought up some good points. She's "Why are you even pissed at Archie? What did Archie legitimately do wrong to make you so mad at him?" And it's no matter what happened, it doesn't, because it's because, Veronica, to Betty, she's "This is all your fault. Things were fine between me and Archie till you came here." Because Veronica, last episode, kept pushing her to kind of be more upfront with Archie. Is we were good friends and everything. And it's you mean him being completely oblivious to your feelings and you pawning after him? Because the only other person that really knew was Kevin, and Kevin was kind of doing the same thing, being "Yo, tell Archie how you feel," and Veronica just did the same thing. But it's Kevin's not catching any slack. But because at the end of the day, it's because Kevin wasn't in a closet with Archie. I'm sure Kevin would love to. I just love the fact is it's just Kevin's just it's almost, you almost see him constantly drooling over Archie. It's man, it's is Archie gay or something? It just the fact is that he's turning down Betty, and I'm sure that thought piques his interest and stuff like that, which I thought was kind of interesting, the whole him and Moose situation too. I know I'm bouncing all over the place once again, I apologize, because for him, he doesn't want to play games. He's "Yeah, Moose, you're my type," but it's I'm not into this whole you got a girlfriend and everything, and now I don't know. Basically, Moose is in a situation where he doesn't know exactly what he wants, and that pisses Kevin off a bit. It's yeah, you're hot and everything, but it's I'm not about to be with someone who just changed on the flip of the dime, that basically I've got to be their dirty little secret. It's we're going to be together, let's be together. Let's not stalk around and try to be together. It's we're going to be together, we're going to straight up be together, so it's not, basically Kevin ain't trying to play no games, essentially. It's how I take it. So it's just kind of interesting. I'm curious to see where that actually goes. It's to the point, obviously, other people are kind of bringing it up, particular Reggie. He's man, he's such a douchebag. I'll kind of get to that in a second, but just the fact is that he was bringing that up like that. It seems like he was alluding to it, but he didn't really pursue it much. They just quickly changed targets, but like I said, I'll let that in a second. But the fact is that the sheriff, interesting enough thing too, since we're on the subject of, Kevin was his dad is the sheriff, and that's kind of interesting because it brought up many questions so why exactly were you and Moose here in the first place to find Jason's body? Trailing back a little bit, because I'm just all over the place, the Veronica and Betty situation. Like, at the end of the day, what really pissed Betty off was the fact is that it's like, she didn't want to admit, like, at the end of the day, it's not Veronica's fault. It's not really Archie's fault that he doesn't feel the way he does about her. I mean, because Veronica's like, he does love you. He does care about you. Don't think your story is over. I'm sure he told that specifically to Archie, that, like, their story isn't over, but she was telling Betty, like, the fact is that, sometimes it's better to actually have a friend than a boyfriend, because someone who's there that, you can lean on and stuff like that, Because at the end of the day, all it was, it's just Betty was hurt. It's like she put her feelings out there and she was heartbroken. And it's like, like I said, she tried to make things work with, like, Archie. Just, let's be friends. Let's move past this and everything. It's like, give me time and, we'll move past it. And it's like, it's not that simple. And it's like, she still needs more time. So. But what really got me was that conversation she had with Cheryl, because it's like, she got all buddy-buddy with Cheryl just to spite Veronica. Like, Veronica had gotten them basically a setup for a medi-pedi and everything, part of her apology and everything. And Betty took that and, like, basically gave it to Cheryl and was like, let's hang out and there's stuff like that. What Cheryl's like, she's like, oh my God, I was going to do that anyway. And just Veronica's like, what are you doing? So they're hanging out and everything, and then Cheryl kind of shows her true colors, because she starts asking questions like, what happened to Jason? Does your sister know about Jason and stuff like that? Basically accusing Polly of possibly being the one to kill Jason, which Betty kind of snapped and was like, get out of my house or I will kill you. I'm surprised that didn't turn into something. I'm surprised she didn't twist it around like, Betty's trying to threaten me, like, trying to divert attention towards Betty in that whole circumstance. But it's like, she didn't act upon that. Which led to Betty bringing up the question about, Polly to her mom. And she's like, does Polly know about Jason? And her mom's like, yeah, I told her. But it's like, your sister, she's on those medications, so she doesn't even know what day it is specifically. And Betty's like, can I go see her? She's like, oh. And she's like, I'm so proud of you and everything. Like, completely ignoring her. It's like, there's definitely got to be more to that situation, because the fact is her mom's got, like, that's kind of the whole thing about this. Like, that's why I brought it up last episode, comparing this to Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks was all about secrets, and it's like everyone in this town has one apparently, especially her mom, whatever her deal is, like, whatever, like, because I think it's probably a situation where she's lashing out at the Blossom family, because she blames him more so than anything for Polly's condition. But like, as Betty said last episode, her mom played a big role in whatever Polly's condition is. So it's kind of like, obviously there's more story to that. I hope we kind of get answers to that soon enough. But the fact is, we also had the whole Cheryl angle. Like, even her, like, two besties were basically like, so Cheryl, you said that Jason fell into the water, but now he shows up with a bullet in his hand. It's like, yo, what's up with that? You didn't say anything about that. And it's just like, basically like, are you accusing me of killing my own brother? They're like, we're just trying to get the facts. And obviously you can tell it's bothering her, just the way she sliced up that frog and everything. But then she had that breakdown later on in the episode where she was like, she just cried, and Veronica was there to kind of comfort her. And it was kind of like, essentially, she'd been kind of denying it in the entire time, and then reality kind of set in, especially because she saw Archie running and smiling. Which, I don't remember if I brought that up last episode. Like, the fact is that Archie's a redhead. I mean, obviously his mom might be a redhead too, but it's like, obviously there's something there too. Maybe there's kind of an affair situation that went on, or maybe Archie was adopted from the Blossom family. Like, fact is he has red hair and everything. It's like, I don't know. Like I said, I mean, we'd have to get a look at his mom. If his mom's not a redhead, I mean, his mom must be a redhead, but for that question to not have come up, you would think so. So it does, that was something that came across my head last episode, but I didn't say anything. I mean, most likely it'll turn out to be nothing, but it might be the case of like, he's actually Blossom. But getting back to it, like, Cheryl said something that just kind of like stuck in my head. She was like, he was supposed to come back. And then in that same moment, I was like, wait, what the hell does that mean? It's like, this was a prank, wasn't it? Like, Jason disappearing and everything was you guys messing with people. He was supposed to come back. That's why, because it seemed like last episode, it's like she seemed like a little distraught. Like, oh yeah, blah, 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 things are messed up and everything. Like, oh man, my brother's going missing and something's happened to him. But at the same time, it seemed like she was that broken up, because it's our first time really seeing her broken up, because she's kind of been in like, essentially mean girl mode, essentially. So put it in nice terms, she's been in mean girl mode. But now she finally broke down, because it's like, it's sinking that her brother is dead, because she didn't think he was dead. So it had to be some kind of joke, especially with what we find out at the end of the episode, a little twist, finding out that Jason actually didn't die on the 4th. He actually died a week later. Hence, like with the markings on his bodies and everything, like he was held by in a rope, like, tied up and everything. So he didn't, like, he probably faked it, and then as he went off somewhere else, someone grabbed him and killed him. And that's why I can only assume that's why Cheryl said what she said. Especially later on in the episode, she was like, yeah, I'm guilty. And she holds her hands out when the principal as well as the sheriff come to get her. And so it's like, oh, Cheryl did kill her? It's like, no, there's no way she did it. The point is they played some stupid joke, and basically it gave whoever it was that actually killed him an opportunity to take him. So the other side of this episode dealt heavily, once again, going back to Archie and his teacher. Like, the fact is you had Jughead thinking, like, yo, something's up with you, Archie. Like, he started piecing it together. Like I said, it's so interesting because someone had pointed it out, and I didn't even think about it because I'm not familiar with the whole Archie comics. Apparently he's called Jughead because he's an idiot in the comic books. But obviously, as you can see in this show, he's pretty smart. He's very intellectual because, like, he pieces stuff together, especially this whole situation. He's like, it's kind of interesting. You happen to, like, we had plans over the summer and then you bailed out at the last minute. It was roughly around the weekend of July 4th. Any particular reason for that? Anything you want to tell me? And then he ended up catching Archie and the teacher having their moment. Like, Archie's like, yo, we got to tell somebody, especially because the principal confronted him because, like, the look he was giving is like, oh, obviously you got something to tell me, so tell me. But, Archie didn't say anything. He tells the teacher, and he's basically like, tell me if this is real. Let me know if this is real, and let me know if this is something worth fighting for, that you really feel the same way for me. And she's like, I do. She's like, basically, I'm putting my life in your hands, Archie. Jughead oversees and hears, and then he confronts Archie about it later. And I 100% agree with Jughead that basically she's using it. I 100% agree, because Archie ended up spilling the entire beans to him. But it's like, definitely, like, the moment that conversation happened, I was like, she's using you, dude. She's manipulating you, because at the end of the day, all she cares about herself. There's a part of me that's like, I want to give her the benefit of the doubt. I really do. That a part of me is like, oh, there's a part of her that loves him. But even that part that's giving her a benefit of doubt still 100% believes she's using him. That there's a part of her that does care about him, but still doesn't, her need to protect herself outweighs anything. I mean, let's face it. Like, she kept, like, because at the end of the day, the only person that's going to be affected is her the most. Obviously, she's going to be in some deep trouble, but she's like, oh no, we're still in love. We got to protect what's this between us. But she's just using him. And Jughead was right about that, which obviously led to Archie and Jughead kind of having problems, because obviously him and Jughead are really good friends, but it's just in his circumstances, it's just kind of like, I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of like love will do that to you. I mean, it's a situation where it's like, he's just a young kid. Like, she legitimately is taking advantage of him. It's one of those circumstances where it's like, oh, you think, oh, he's a high schooler and he's having sex with a teacher. Oh, that's so amazing. It's like, no, she's taking advantage of him. And you see it even more so with even more time going by. And like, Archie, eventually he was like, you know what? At the end of the day, I have to tell the truth, because the fact is, it's the right thing to do, because that was something his dad, as well as Jughead, said. Jughead's like, my friend wasn't perfect, but he would always try to do what was right. And then, Archie talked to his dad, and his dad's like, yeah, you know what you have to do if what you're doing is the right thing to do. So that means you have to do it. So he tells her, he's like, you know what? I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to try and keep your name out of it as much as possible, but this is something I have to do. But obviously with the reveal at the end of the episode about like, oh, Jason actually died a week later, so it changes the whole thing about the gunshot, which arguably could be something else. It could be the fact is that the gunshot could be related to them, the Blossom twins. I keep calling them Blooms, the Blossom twins, or it could have something to do with the fact is maybe the killer was out there testing their gun. Maybe they actually know that Archie and the teacher were out there. Maybe they caught glimpses of that, so maybe Archie's in danger too. So, I mean, where the entire episode stands, it seems like in retrospect of like Veronica, Betty, Archie, and Jughead. I mean, in particular, the whole situation between the love triangle, essentially, to a certain degree, because it's hard. Like, it seems like Veronica's interested in him, just like obviously Betty has strong feelings for him too. And once again, it's a situation where I'm not 100% sure where Archie's heart lies. It seems like more so than anything, he's in love with the teacher, obviously, but it seems like obviously he cares about them both too. And Veronica and Betty made the promise, like, yo, no more boy coming between us. It's like we're good, right? And it's like, yeah, like, because Betty saw that side of Veronica, like, because she basically was thinking like Veronica's faking it or whatever, but then she saw the way Veronica was there for Cheryl during her time, like comforting her and everything. So she saw that nicer side of Veronica, made her go. The fact is, Veronica's like that to someone like Cheryl and everything. It's like, this isn't some facade. She's the real deal. So it seems like obviously things are better to a certain extent because they were actually, they sat down together and ate at Pops or whatever. So I mean, I skipped over it, but a pretty big moment between Jughead and Archie being friends again was like, I brought it up earlier, the whole situation about Reggie bringing up the whole Moose and Kevin situation, just being a d-bag, and it was like basically saying like, oh man, like, oh, Jughead, were you the one that killed him? Don't tell me you tried to do some stuff to his body, which, Jughead kind of had a smart remark and Reggie kind of got in his face, but Archie was like, yo, back down, just leave him alone. He's like, oh, why? Why are you defending? He's like, there's no reason, just leave him alone. He's like, oh, I get it. So you two worked together and killed him, and basically it turned into a little fight and everything. It almost like, first episode made it seem like Archie and Reggie were bros. I mean, granted, Reggie's a jock and everything. He's, Archie's on the football team and everything, so I'm very curious to see what happens going forward with that. It's just like, I mean, he was just being a dick. It's like, it seemed like he was making light of the situation, like, oh yeah, trying to start some crap, because like, I mean, most eyes would probably be on Jughead anyway, because Jughead seems like a loner. Like I said, no one really interacts with him and everything, so Archie's probably one of the few people he's friends with. Like I said, and it seems like, I brought it up, like, it seems like it was only a recent thing, them kind of distancing themselves as friends. It's because of that summer. Like, probably ever since that situation happened, plus the whole thing with the teacher, it kind of like, he kept his distance from a lot of people, with the exception of Betty. Which we learned a little bit more of their backstory about how they've been basically friends/neighbors, best friends since they were like 4 years old, because they've always lived near each other, been in the same school, been in the same class. There was a moment when he was younger that he's going to get held back, but Betty tutored him to make sure that they wouldn't be separated. And then basically he kissed her and said, will you marry me? But then she's like, wait till we get older, then you can kind of revisit this discussion. So I guess that kind of, I'm sure maybe that's actually what sparked it inside of Betty too. Like maybe that one moment, and she's kind of been holding on to it ever since. Or just, I mean, to be fair, it's not that strange of a thing, because it's like, it doesn't matter who you are. You spend enough time around someone that it's very important to you, that you're very close to, they've been together most of their lives. It's understandable that, feelings would develop. It's just kind of a natural thing that happens. Just very interested to see how everything goes for it. Like, I want to know why Cheryl did what she did. I'm so certain that it has to be what it was. It had to be some kind of stupid joke or something that her and Jason came up with. It's like, why would you do that? I guess just to kind of like, just like, oh my God, it's such a good prank or something like that. I mean, I guess at the end of it, it's just kind of like an attention type of thing. It seems like that's all this really was about. Some stunt to get someone's attention. Maybe it's some, obviously probably some issues at home that led them to kind of want to be like that. But I mean, like I said, we just kind of have to wait to see how that all plays out. So, and also what's going to happen between Archie and the Teach. It's like the fact is he wanted to tell, but now there's no reason to tell. But does that mean, what would that mean for them? The fact is, like, because I caught a glimpse of it and it looks like it was Archie and her talking, and the fact is Jughead also knows. That makes you wonder, will he ever tell someone like Veronica and Betty about this situation too? Like I said, because I want to know where Archie's heart lies. Is it really in love with her, or is he really in love with like Betty, but he's just so, because of what he's been the secret he's been keeping, plus well, the whole Jason situation, but also because of the whole teacher situation, that he feels like he can't really open up to her. Like, I don't know. It's really hard to say. Because I don't know canonically, because I think I was hearing that basically canonically there's always a love triangle between Archie, Veronica, and Betty. I don't know whether there's like a canonical like thing. Because it seems like they were constantly throwing that around too. It's like, Betty was like, like the moment I met, Veronica was like, the moment I met Betty, it was like, I felt like we were destined to become like best friends. I was like, So it's supposed to be kind of a wink at the comics, I guess. And then also the statement about like not letting a boy come between us. Once again, like I don't know. Like I said, I'm not that familiar with the comic books, but nevertheless, even though I'm not, I'm still highly invested in this. It's so interesting because it's like I have a vague notion in these characters, and to see them under these circumstances, it's just kind of interesting to me. Very interesting. Like I said, I brought it up again this episode. Very Twin Peak like. Just in effect, it's the whole mystery, obviously the murder mystery element to it, but just also like a small town filled with secrets. So I feel like that's probably the basis behind it too. They probably wanted to make. I don't think it's a bad thing that it's similar to Twin Peaks. I think that's kind of the point. I think it's like, yo, this is kind of like almost an homage to Twin Peaks, especially I guess also with it coming back and everything. I mean, granted, this has been in probably production for like a while now, so it probably even before Twin Peaks was officially announced to be coming back on Showtime and stuff like that. So it's probably like the people behind this were probably influenced by it. So that's all I'm trying to say. That they added a bit of a Twin Peaks feel to it because of that, because they like Twin Peaks. So, but really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.